Hi everyone, welcome to Creative Mornings December. I'm your speaker today. My name is Annabel Roest. It's actually the first time that I'm doing a public speaking anything, so excuse the clipboard, excuse the nerves. This is all completely new for me. But I'm here today to talk to you about our theme, which is cycle. So to start off, I want everyone to think about a cycle in your life, be it big, be it small. It could be a daily routine, a habit, something that you come back to often. I want you to take 30 seconds to kind of reflect on it. Speak to your neighbor about it if you fancy. If you don't, that's also okay. And yeah, let's just think a little bit about a cycle in our lives. Just gonna leave. We'll come back to this at the end, so if you're not 100% sure what it entails at the moment, that's also all right. What have you guys come up with?
Yeah, start of the academic year.
Okay, so an academic cycle. What have you guys got? Cleaning. I love that. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Fab. We'll move on from there. All right. So, okay, I'm so glad that everyone is talking about so many different things. I've heard things from cleaning to academic cycles. It's really, it's an important cycle. The point of that was, apart from wanting to get everyone mingling a little bit and also to help me ease my nerves, was also to highlight that cycles come in many different forms. They can be social, they can be emotional, they can be physical. And so with that in mind, we're going to crack on to the 3 cycles that I'm going to cover today that have really inspired me this year, but also when I was thinking about the title of this talk, these were the 3 that I wanted to cover. And I'm going to get into how they all link, certainly through my interpretation. So to get started, my name is Annabel Roest, and in December of 2023, so that's been a full cycle for me, nearly a year now, I founded the Femisphere, a project and initiative with a mission to inform and empower ourselves first and other women through women's health education, body education, that kind of thing. And through the first year of the Femisphere's existence, I have interviewed several female health specialists via podcasts, Instagram lives, and had my first motivation letter and CV application through my inbox, which was huge, and grown a very small but powerful community, online following, and even we've hosted our first in-person event where we had over 60 attendees. So I'm very proud that the first year we've kind of accomplished quite a lot. Part of the joy of leading the Femisphere for me is the chance to do the research on the female body and create content, host events that inform myself, as I say, but also inform others in the process. And as part of my research, very early on, I came across the concept of cycle syncing. Does anyone in the audience know what cycle syncing is? I've got 1 hand, 2 hands, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so we've got a rough idea of what cycle syncing entails. So, cycle syncing is a concept that encourages women to adjust their lifestyle, work, exercise, and nutrition, also social activities, according with the phases of their menstrual cycle. This approach is based on the idea that your hormonal fluctuations and your cycle impact your energy levels, your mood, and your cognitive abilities. So it makes certain activities more suited to specific times, if that makes sense. And if we just take a little look into the menstrual cycle itself, you've got your 4 phases. Days 1 through to 5, you're feeling lower energy, and that's when your bleeding occurs. It's a kind of energy levels are lower. It's a time for rest, reflection, and kind of gentle activities. As you move forward into your follicular phase, which is roughly, and I say roughly, days 16 to 14, because obviously cycles are different for everyone. This is when your estrogen begins to rise. It's an ideal time for creativity, also focusing, goal setting, and potentially, if you're into that, engaging in intense physical activity. So I've kind of liked each phase to, you've got your winter, then you're coming into your spring, kind of like the phases that we have of weather and seasons. As you come out of your follicular phase, you then move into your ovulation phase. And in your ovulation, women tend to be most social and communicative, making it a good time for networking, putting yourself out there, collaboration, public speaking. And moving through then, you come into your luteal phase, which is like the autumn. I think Americans call it fall. So that's where your progesterone increases, and it can lead to a more reflective, inward-focused mindset. During this phase, it's really helpful to focus on tasks that require attention to detail and prioritize your self-care as your energy levels begin to dip. So through the menstrual cycle, we can see a very clear opportunity and window for different activities based on energy levels and well-being. And the idea with cycle syncing, on to the next slide. The idea with cycle syncing is to listen to the needs of your body and to align your daily routines with the natural rhythms rather than pushing through every phase in the same way. It's about working with your body and your cycle, not against it. You want to make your life feel less like an uphill battle. By recognizing ebbs and flows, you can show up as your best self, whether that means smashing out creative ideas, in your follicular phase, or making connections during ovulation, slowing down in your luteal phase to recharge. This isn't about perfection, but rather about cultivating self-awareness and making small but intentional changes that honor your body's needs. For me, learning about cycle syncing has been a total game changer. I'm able to be a lot kinder with myself and lead with self-compassion. If things potentially aren't going my way, I will very often look at my app. I really recommend women to have an app where you track your cycle so you know where you are. And quite often, if I'm having a particularly bad day, I will look at my app and I'll be like, okay, that's fine. I see why. So it's really, really important for looking after yourself and your well-being to be in touch with your body and your cycle. And I should also preface that I am not a medical professional. So when the Q&A section comes, please don't ask me things about medical stuff. This is all from my own research and experience. So my second cycle that I want to talk about are the cycle of creativity. How many of us, have had a childhood hobby, passion, an artistic endeavor that we took up as a child, but then have kind of not engaged with since then? Quite a few of us. And that's totally okay. For me, creativity has always felt like an old friend. It can be a bit neglected, but always there, patiently waiting for me to reconnect with it. I'm currently working through The Artist's Way. I'm not sure if anyone's heard of The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. It's a fantastic 12-week program all about unleashing your creativity through spirituality. I'd really recommend, if anyone's interested in following that program, to give it a go. It's one of the most important lessons that I've taken from Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way is that creativity actually does lie within all of us. We are just living in stages of being blocked or not blocked, effectively. And it's not reserved for the select few. Sometimes you can be flourishing, flowing freely, and you can see it in everything we do. Other times, as I say, it's blocked or buried, but it's still there and it's waiting to escape. Sometimes it'll just be dormant, like a seed, waiting under the soil, waiting to be planted and to have the right conditions to bloom. Because I'm not an artist, and well, I am an artist in my own way, but I don't have tons of work to show for myself, like some of the other talks I've been to at Creative Mornings. So I thought I would kind of show you my work. I'll be honest, until recently, I had also been neglecting my own creativity. Life got busy, priorities shifted. I was at school doing my master's. I didn't really have the time or energy. But somewhere along the way, I convinced myself that these creative pursuits weren't essential. The truth is, when we suppress our creativity, we're suppressing a part of ourselves. And for me, rediscovering creativity has been very much like finding the missing piece of the puzzle. This is some of my latest work. I've really engaged with embroidery this year. I've kind of stuck with my drawing. I've started crocheting some little bags. That's a little tea towel I made for my friend who loves skiing when I embroidered. And yeah, really fun way of jazzing up some old jeans. So some of my recent work. It's also reminded me, though, that creativity is cyclical, as I say. There are phases of inspiration and energy when ideas come easily, and there are phases of quiet where things feel stuck or uncertain. Those moments of quiet are just as important because they're often the precursor to growth. Learning to respect those cycles has been truly transformative, and it's made me much kinder to myself, as I say, when I hit a creative block. Instead of fighting it, I see it as kind of part of the process. It's not always easy, it's easier said than done. But it's been really nice to look back and see how my creativity has shifted and evolved over the years, shaped also by different stages and challenges, and even the work now that I do with the Femisphere is a reminder that creativity isn't always linear. So it's a cycle that's constantly renewing itself. And much like the phases of the menstrual cycle, you've got that renewal phase where you've got fresh perspectives, things are starting to open up and keep kind of under the surface, but renewing. You've got the spark and the inspiration of discovery as you feel excited about your new ideas and creative exploration. And then you expand and your ideas grow and you experiment and you redefine and you build momentum creatively. But then you come into your pause again, where you have that phase of stillness and progress feels maybe a bit slower or blocked. And this is a space for reflection and for rest and letting that subconscious connection emerge. But kind of talking about that pause phase, because it's just as important to talk about, times where you're off as well as times where you're on. How do we nurture those cycles, especially when we're feeling low or blocked or uninspired? For me, it's all about carving out space, not just physical space, but also mental, emotional space. We spoke earlier about different cycles and rituals, but these rituals that you have in your life, these little mini cycles are so important. Whether that's coming back to your journal every day, taking 10 minutes of your day to do meditation every day, you're just slowly coming back to yourself and re-engaging with that cycle, and, as I say, carving out that space for you to be curious. And that's, I think, key to coming through those blocked moments. But for me, the most important thing, and it's something that I've been really working on this year, ups and downs, is self-compassion. So we're going to move on to the third cycle that I've been inspired by this year, which is cycles of community. So speaking of these essentials, my final cycle is the cycle of community. And if you think about it too, our relationships, the people we surround ourselves with, will also naturally follow cycles as well. Friends, family members, colleagues, they can float in and out of our immediate lives and move through different phases as we do. Sometimes we're tightly connected, sharing the same dreams, the same relationships, the same experiences. Other times, life gently pulls us in different directions. And what's beautiful about that is how fluid and organic that is. Relationships don't necessarily end, but they evolve. A childhood friend who you might have had as a child may not be in your daily life anymore, but then you carry a piece of what you've learned with them along your way for your next friend that you meet. A mentor you worked with just a few years ago might have shaped your outlook in ways that you're still discovering. Even fleeting interactions, like a kind word from a stranger, can leave ripples that influence the person that you are today. This cycle of community reminds me that actually we're all students and teachers, constantly learning, but then also influencing each other. With each connection, we're given an opportunity to grow and reflect and carry those lessons onto our next adventure. And we find ourselves in a new season of life, Whether it's a move, a new job, I'm starting a new job at the moment and it's terrifying, or a personal change, your cycle kind of begins again. New connections form, old ones are renewed in surprising ways, and we discover that in every relationship, no matter how brief or enduring, it is part of the tapestry of our lives. So I've been privileged enough to have lived in Uganda, in Kenya, Italy, and now in Switzerland and England. With each move, I found myself kind of navigating a new cycle of community and reinventing who I am to seek out these new connections. At first, the process is a bit daunting, filled with kind of uncertainty and hesitation. But then over time, I've come to see it differently. Each move has taught me what I once feared becomes something that I really cherish, which is the chance to grow, connect, and build meaningful relationships with people. For example, when I first came to my first Creative Mornings event, I came alone as part of my weekly artist's date, which is one of the tools in the artist's way. Really recommend, by the way. And at first, it was really daunting because there was only one person who I know, which is lovely Diana at the back. And I was terrified. I came in here and I was like, oh my goodness, who wants to talk to me? No one wants to talk to me. But by the end, I'd met Bunnies, I'd met loads of people, Sasan, the film man. and now I'm here. I'm standing in front of all of you talking. So for me, that was a huge cycle and a kind of a learning lesson about once you put yourself out there, you can really open yourself up to abundance, and that's really exciting. So yeah, another cycle. I think we see what I'm doing here. So we're going to start with the connection phase. This is a time of introspection and forming a deep, meaningful connection. You can reach out to your close relationships for support, reflection, and understanding. And this is when your energy should focus on nurturing the bonds that feel restorative and grounding. Recently, a friend of my mother's said to me that in life, you've got your drains and your radiators, your friends who drain the energy from you, but you do love them anyway. They're the kind of person that you want to take to the cinema because then you have company, but you don't need to talk to them. And then you've got the radiators, those people who you spend time with and they just radiate joy and light and you just love them and oh my gosh, you can't get enough. So that's the time for a radiator. And it's also a time to just chill, and that's so okay. And then into the growth phase where you have new opportunities to build and expand that community. Energy and optimism rise, you're making it easier to form fresh connections, strengthen existing ones, and it's a great time to engage with groups, network, or step into new social cycles. Then you've got the flourishing phase where your relationships feel like they're at their peak. Social, collaborative, and vibrant. This is the moment to celebrate shared goals, collective achievements, or simply to enjoy the company of others. A time of outward energy, engagement, and active participation in your community. And then comes the reflection phase. This might be when you're just feeling a little bit antisocial and a little bit quiet and you just want to keep to yourself, and that's okay. A period of reevaluating and prioritizing your relationships is so necessary. It's really important to take stock and to figure out who are the radiators, who are the drains. And some connections may fade as you focus on aligning yourself with those who really resonate with your energy or whatever vibration you're on. And this phase encourages self-care and setting boundaries within your community to prepare for that next cycle. And yeah, the beauty of this cycle is the beauty of the cycle of community is its impermanence and continuity. People come and go, as I say, but their impact does remain. Each relationship, whether fleeting or enduring, contributes to our growth, teaching us lessons that leave through our lives, and we feel clearer about who we are and what we value, and communities will then naturally evolve. For me, this alignment has been very, very evident in my starting of the Femisphere, as I've kind of naturally been drawn to the people who see where I'm going and they get it. This is what me and my boyfriend always says, they get it. So it's really interesting to give yourself that reflection space to really, as I say, take stock as you continue your cycle. So here we go. I've kind of somehow linked these three completely different topics together through cycles. As I say, you've got those moments of pause at the bottom with luteal, reflection, taking that deep breath. as you come into renewal and you come into the opening of the flower. And then your follicular phase where you're like, yeah, spark, growth, let's go. And then as you kind of living your life and not thinking too much about it, but flourishing. Whenever my friends call me up and they say, how are you doing? Are you thriving or surviving? I always think that this is thriving, this is surviving. Or like that half is thriving, that half is surviving. So yeah. Oh, we've got that twice. So in a full cycle moment, I want us to think a little bit about that cycle that we talked about at the beginning. And I want you to pose yourself this question, these two questions. What has this cycle taught you about yourself? And what would you change if you approached it with more curiosity, compassion, and flexibility? How would that impact your life? You can just think about it and meditate on that a little bit. But yeah. I want to invite you about thinking and adopting a cyclical perspective, whether that's honoring the phases of your body, nurturing your creative process, or cherishing the ebb and flow of relationships. It might help you move through life with greater ease. Instead of striving for linear progress and perfection, what if we allowed ourselves to embrace these natural rhythms and cycles in our life? This mindset has been really transformative for me. It's taught me how to listen more closely to my needs, to see challenges as part of a broader pattern of growth, and to fully recognize that there's beauty in every single phase, whether it's that moment of inspiration, the lull, or the start of something new. So I'm going to leave you with this little thought. Cycles are all around us, shaping our experience and our connections. When we start to notice them, we open ourselves up to a deeper sense of self-compassion, understanding, and even joy. Thank you.
Multi-hat kind of day. So thank you so much for your talk. I hope you all enjoyed the talk. Now we're going to open the floor for questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So if you guys have any questions for Annabel, anybody?
It's just a reflection. I just wish I'd known. I'm a midwife of 40 years, and I've never looked at that cycle before. And I just wish I'd known about that 40 years ago.
Oh, thank you.
It's helpful with myself, educating my children, also educating people at work. I think it's really important.
Thank you, Benny. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I guess.
Oh, sorry. You go ahead. Are you going to host another one of your
Hemisphere?
Yeah, where you said I had 6 people.
Yeah,
Are you doing another one?
I am indeed. The plan is to keep going with it. I've had to take, I don't know if that's clear from this presentation. I've had quite a tough year this year. So I've been doing a lot of learning and, as I say, lots of transformative work and inner reflection. So I had to take a little pause from it towards like the last month or so. But my plan is in the new year, if I have enough interest, because also it started to take a little bit of a dip in terms of engagement, I would love to host some female-geared events. I do lots of stuff on women at work, balancing your kind of period with menopause and then having your career and lots of different stuff. Basically, if I have the interest, I'd love to host it. And I've spoken as well with Co-Spire, co-working space in Prix, about having a venue there, basically, or having like a residence. So yeah, give us a follow, and yeah, I'm really keen to keep doing stuff if there, of course, is interest. I'm living at the moment up in Crans-Montana for the winter season, doing some bar work, because why not? Adventures. But so I'll be less available. As I say, if there is interest, this is my passion. So yeah, follow and we'll get going.
I just wanted to ask, like, how do you manage? Because like there's like the cycle for us as individuals, and then there's the rest of the world. And sometimes the workplace might not be as flexible for us to adapt in that sense. And for those of us who know, like, we have kids or other people with other cycles
Yeah, yeah.
to manage, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
how do you think would be like a compassionate way of incorporating this into our lives?
Yeah, no, that's a really great question, actually. I think the key there is scale. You've got to decide on what scale you can give yourself that space that you need to carve out for yourself. So, for example, as you say, you're managing job, kids, you've got like 1,000,001 things to do, and there's so many different variables. I think at the end of the evening, say you have 5 minutes where you can pop your headphones in and do a little meditation. And just that little space, that 5 minutes at the end of your day, that is yours and yours alone. Whether that's 5 minutes, whether it's an hour, depending on how much free time you have and how much availability that is, just taking whatever time you can to check in with yourself is the best way to self-compassion. Because I think also the first thing is acknowledging it and saying, ooh, I'm being really mean to myself today. Everything's rubbish. I've got a creative block, job sucks, everything's rubbish. But then if you separate yourself from that feeling and you look kind of outwardly on yourself and you say, actually, I've got this to be grateful for. I've got this to be grateful for. Oh, and would you look at that? My period's coming. Then you're able to be like, yeah, exactly. I get like that. Trust me, the week before is a nightmare. But it's just kind of, as I say, taking that perspective and sort of looking at it as what it is as part of that movement. So as I say, it's you do what you can for yourself, but acknowledge first of all is the key, I would say.
Thank you.
Well, my pleasure. Yes.
I have maybe something to share because I think it's very useful. I read it first time about this in a book.
Yeah.
And it's called Do Less by Kate Northrup.
Okay.
And her mom is a gynecologist. So it's the book is not all about women's cycles, but it's how it says it's for working moms. It's not just for working moms, it's for every woman who of a teenager to any age. So I recommend the book. It's really
Do less.
Do Less. Yeah, Kate Northrup. I can give it to the organizer.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, we can add it in the description.
I'm about to finish my book at the moment, so yes, taking all the book recommendations. Yes.
I've never seen like the menstrual cycle and the creative cycle and community cycle like played out this way. I think it's so cool how they overlap. And I've been thinking a lot about how the world really isn't built for women.
Oh yeah, I could talk about that.
But I'm wondering, like, if we, and one of my favorite daydreams is, like, if we could knock everything down, if we could remove all the systems and the expectations and everything, like, what would it look like if women designed it all? And, like, how would that affect everybody else?
So good.
So this very tiny, small little question is, if you could take that cycle and you could make a change that would, like, really affect everybody else, because it's a micro thing that we're doing, but it would have macro implications. Like, what kind of
What would I do?
effect do you think that would have on like an entire community? Or, I mean, it's a huge question, right? But like,
Love it.
take it as
Here for it.
but like, if we took that and applied it to everybody, what do you think that would look like?
So,
That's a whole book.
yeah, I mean, love it. Here for it. Let's chat about it for sure. I think for me, one of the cool things that I've learned, I say cool, it's kind of sad, but the men's hormonal cycle is on a 24-hour clock, right? Women's is on 30 days.
Yeah.
30 days. So what I would do probably is rather than having our working day as a 24-hour thing, is maybe slow that down a bit and maybe make performance goals a bit longer and kind of, as I say, factor in the cycle and factor in those periods of lulls and periods of yeah, because everything is geared around that 24-hour male hormonal cycle, would be to just slow that down a bit and maybe, I don't know, make it a bit more flexible. So for example, you worked half a day today, half a day tomorrow, and then you can kind of, in my head, the ideal way would be to pick and choose on what days suit you, but also then to keep, this is in the working world kind of context, is to keep a tally of how many hours you're doing, and rather than doing it day, kind of keep your routine flexible so that you also have time to factor in self-care and you have time to factor in family and you have, I think more of a balance is needed. I read a really interesting thing as well, is that public loos are built same size for men and women, even though women need more space. So a small thing that I think would make a big difference is giving more women more space in loos, so that we don't have to queue so much. But yeah, as I say, more time, more space, I think would be the answer for if women around the world, who knows? But yeah. Yes.
Thank you very much for the presentation. It's very insightful to understand that actually we are in this capitalistic world, because everything is about increasing, optimizing,
Yeah.
trying to get more and more and more to stick to your own cycle. But I was also wondering, because we have lots of men who don't really understand how actually this menstrual cycle work, and why you are acting somehow very tired one day, and one day you are super happy and you can do everything. How to make sure them aware, like, would you like to also host maybe some this kind of eye-opening events for men community that they want to understand and learn more? Or maybe if people would bring their partners or like boy friends
Yeah.
to this event, just to let them know that, like, okay, yeah, women have different cycles, and you have to also start living close to your own cycles.
Hell yeah. Yeah. Shout out to my boyfriend in the corner, Greg, who is the biggest ally and the most patient, amazing guy ever. Yeah, big clap for Greg. But I've got a really good friend of mine whose father is actually the chairman of a foundation called Men Engage over in Geneva, which basically helps make gender equality and education around gender parity more accessible for men, in the sense that I think men can get quite defensive, or, you know, the way that sometimes deliveries are of certain topics can kind of feel quite on the attack towards men in terms of female rights and about criticizing. And it can sometimes, I think, feel quite overwhelming and intimidating for a man to have all of this information put on them and this guilt and everything kind of like forced onto them. So what Men Engage do is that they create these lovely little spaces and these little circles where men can ask questions that would possibly be deemed silly questions by your average person, but they are questions that they want answered nonetheless, and are just as important. So yeah, I'm trying actually at the moment to set up a collaboration with Men Engage to do like an event like that at some point next year. So yeah, keep an eye, it's on the works. Yeah, my pleasure. Any more questions? Great. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much, Annabel.
Raise your hands if it's your first time at Tibbetts. Yeah, I think most of us are at Tibbetts. It's our favorite vegan restaurant. So we are very thankful for Tibbetts for sponsoring the venue and also our breakfast today. Our event, Creative Mornings, is now globally sponsored by Adobe. So Adobe is our global partner, and we are very thankful for them, because without them, we will not be able to continue to thrive and grow as a community. I think Adobe recognized our massive support in recognizing talents and creatives around the world. So thank you, Adobe, for supporting us and becoming our global partner. And who here uses Adobe? I use Adobe Photoshop, Illustrator. Well, thank you, Adobe.